Well, David, we left off on the break about what constitutes an employee, what constitutes a contractor, and what doesn't. So I guess the high points and the litigation that you handled were covered, but let's go back and summarize. If you are somebody who works in the oil and gas business and got laid off or are afraid to get laid off or maybe didn't get paid what you think you should have gotten paid, what's the first step?
Well, the first thing you should do, Joe, is to contact a lawyer. And I would, of course, recommend one that specializes in labor and employment law. Best way to do that, I think, is to find somebody who is board certified. Most board certified employment law attorneys that I know work for big defense firms. They represent the employers, the big corporations. There are some of us board certified lawyers that represent the employees, the little guys.
Thank God.
I wish there were more of us out there. But what I would recommend is that you contact a board certified lawyer, explain to that lawyer what the situation is, and find out what your rights are. So many people believe that if they're called an independent contractor, they're not entitled to overtime. The other big misconception is that if you get a salary, you don't get overtime. It's much more complicated than that. Just because you get a salary doesn't mean you're not entitled to overtime. So if you receive a salary and you don't get paid overtime, you should maybe talk to an expert in the field.
And let me stop you there, because you don't know how many people, hardworking, primarily women that I've talked to, that they say, we're going to make you a manager.
Yes.
And we're going to give you all this responsibility. And the ego thing lasts about a month. They say, finally, I'm recognized for all my hard work. And then they're making them come in on Saturday.
Yes.
And then they're making them stay away from their kids and dinner time and everything in the evenings. And then their family suffers. When you call somebody a manager, what's the difference between a manager and an employee?
Well, managers are employees, but they are classified as exempt from the overtime requirements of the FLSA, which means that if they get a salary and they truly are managers, they're not entitled to be paid overtime, because the thought is the salary is going to be enough to compensate them for the hours they work. But of course, a lot of employers abuse that. Calling somebody a manager doesn't mean they are a manager. A lot of times Walmart's famous for this, they'll call people shift leaders, crew leaders, that sort of thing. Office managers in certain businesses. The real key is, does this employee have the right to hire and fire people? Are they the ones that are setting the pay rates? Are they the ones that are setting the schedules? If not, if really all they're doing is making sure that the task gets done, they're not truly managers, and they are entitled to overtime. So when I talk to these folks, sometimes the most difficult job I have is convincing my potential client that they're entitled to overtime. It's just so ingrained in them that, well, I get a salary, so I don't get overtime. A lot of employers think that's true. I've defended cases against lawyers who said, well, we didn't have to pay overtime, we paid a salary. And they don't realize it's much more complicated than that.
Really, even lawyers have done this.
Lawyers have done this.
Well, I'm going to switch over a little bit a español. Vamos a hablar nuestro idioma. Y aquí está David Langenfeld para ustedes que están aquí con mi televisión, mi programa aquí. Lo agradezco mucho para mirando esta televisión aquí. Pero estamos hablando de empleados y también de empleadores que están pagando el pago y medio. También exigiendo también que si están trabajando más que 40 horas por semana. Y también, si no pueden hablar inglés, pueden hablar aquí si tienen unas preguntas a 361-887-8670. Recuerde que su voto es su voz. Si no votas, no puedes quejar después. Y también David, I'm getting the vibe que él entiende también un poco del español. So, a lot of the time, people out there, when we're speaking Spanish, we're also addressing those people who may have a green card, that may have come to this country and are doing things the right way, and that are getting cheated out of their rightful pay